I've been away for a while now. You got me feeling like a child now. 'Cause every time I see your lovely face, I get the tingles in my heart space. It starts in my toes, I crinkle my nose. Wherever it goes, I always know that you make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Just take my love wherever you go. The rain is falling on my window pane, but we are keeping in a safer place. You keep me staying dry and warm, and give me feelings that I adore. It starts in my toes, I crinkle my nose. Wherever it goes, I always know you make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Just take my love wherever you go. Well, what else can I say?
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the center. Have a great day.
Hello. We'd like to welcome Bob. He's from the Redondo CSL. He's here accompanying his wife, who's going to be one of our speakers today.
Yep.
And her name is Catherine. We're so happy to have her. Thank you very much for accompanying her.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Well, you did good on your own. But you didn't look at what she was wearing.
White sweater.
Hi, Julius.
Yeah, she jumped in and wear the guy's shirt just to be a part of it.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Wonderful.
And so today, knowing that we are all one in the Spirit, we're all one. And if it's comfortable for you, sit back, relax, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Maybe another deep breath, breathing life in. And dropping your shoulders and just relaxing and realizing once again that we are all one in the Spirit. And so knowing we are all one in the Spirit, let's just take this time to think of someone we love. They can be in Las Vegas, they can be in the state, they can be in the nation. So choose someone, and in your mind just say their name. And just connect in the Spirit with that one. Letting them know that you know that you are one with them. And now somebody much farther away, someone you love. You might miss them or you not, but just say their name. And tell that person, we are one in the Spirit. That's love, that's God's love, that Spirit. And now choose someone who's on the other side. Say their name. Let them know that we are one in the Spirit. Can't be much closer. And now let's just think of the whole world and every individual person in this world. Knowing Spirit is everywhere, in, through, and around each and every being. Send love to everyone. And now, notice your heart opening the doors to your heart, receiving love back from everyone. Every single person is a mirror. all that love is coming back to you right now. God is love. And coming back into the room, we say together, and so it is. Good morning, friends, family. So happy to be here with you today and asking for you to sing loud and proud.
So in the sacred space, let's just go within together And knowing that as I speak, I am speaking as and for each and every person here. And so knowing that that divine presence, that one spirit, that energy, that essence that is expressing itself as love, as joy, as wholeness, as independence, is fully expressing itself right here and right now as me and as each person hearing my voice. Each of us in our own unique way are allowing the divine to fully be expressed in and through and as us. And so I make welcome today new ways to express the love, the joy, the wholeness that I am, and I share it. I find new ways to be a blessing to this community and to the world. And knowing that what I am seeking to be blessed is already blessed just by me putting my attention towards it. It grows into its magnificence by means of me. And I'm so grateful today to be able to be at the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living, to be reminded of who and what I am. And knowing that one of the ways in which I'm being reminded is through the words and the wisdom of Reverend Mrs. McKinney, our dear, dear loved one. And I also know it is coming through the voice and the talent of Michelle, who just gives the love that she is to this family. And supported by Dave, as he always knows exactly what and how to play and support. And so knowing that every volunteer here gives the love that they are and reminds us how special each of us is, I just say thank you, God. Thank you for the way in which you were saying yes to it all today, and I am a grateful beneficiary of all of this love. And so for the good that is taking place in this service and beyond, I am just forever grateful. And I release my word to that perfect action of the law, knowing it's already done. I let it be, I let go, and together we say, so it is.
You guys ready to rock this with me? Yeah. As you can tell, I really need your help. I'm so unprepared. I kind of got a last minute call, and I was on the road, and so I'm so happy to be here because you guys just made me feel so good. Okay, this is my kind of song though too, so we should be fine, right? Here we go. Let's dance. Sign. S-A-Y-N-G. Sign. Oh, no. Oh, we got trouble. That's all right. That's all right. It's just trying to make me feel better is what it's doing. I think I know the tempo of this about here.
Accept these
fun?
It is. Thank you.
Gotta change things up.
Were you on the road as Janice?
Yeah, I was in San Juan Capistrano.
Woo!
So beautiful.
Well, see, we
You gotta
have
go.
Janice Joplin leading us today. And Dave, of course, as we continue to hold Patty in our prayers. Thank you. Awesome. And while you're standing, please, if it's comfortable for you, please stay with me. God bless America and the rest of the world. And if you just turn to a neighbor and just say good morning.
We picked a song this morning. I didn't know I could bring tracks, so I have this song I love singing. It's just the sweetest song, and it's all about you guys, really. You're very full of effervescence and love, and you make me feel bubbly. So this song is called Bubbly. I hope you like it. I did change some lyrics to make it church appropriate, so I was like, wait a minute. Thank you. Let's try this. I've been away for a while now. You got me feeling like a child now. 'Cause every time I see your bubbly face, I get the tingles in my heart space. It starts in my toes, I crinkle my nose. Wherever it goes, I always know that you make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Just take my love wherever you go. The rain is falling on my window pane, but we are keeping in a safer place. You keep me staying dry and warm, and give me feelings that I adore. It starts in my toes, I crinkle my nose. Wherever it goes, I always know you make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Just take my love wherever you go. Well, what else can I say? You just make me feel this way. I just say it starts in my toes, and I crinkle my nose. Wherever it goes, I always know you make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Just take my love wherever you go. I've been asleep for a while now. You tuck me in just like a child now. 'Cause every time you hold me in your arms, I'm comfortable enough to feel your warmth. It starts in my soul, it goes to my nose. I crinkle my nose. Whatever you know, just make me smile. Please stay for a while now. Take my love wherever you go. Wherever you go, wherever, just take my love, just take my love where you go. You make me smile, stay as long as you want. I do love
Michelle. Those of you that remember our ordination was based on a song. The theme was from her song, I Came Here to Be. And, I don't think it gets any better. I don't know. I don't think I can stand it. Yeah, for a few reasons. Before I introduce our guest, my family here, can I have Lauren stand up and Cheryl? I thought Dan was going to be here today, but I think we canceled the barbecue, so he's. But I just want to say, I just wanted to say thank you, because June, you weren't here the 4th of June, or the 5th, whatever that date was, the first weekend in June, and it was our 9th anniversary as practitioners. 9 years. We became practitioners 9 years ago. Yes. So, 5 years ago, this beautiful woman here, Reverend Mrs. McKinney. That's a story in and of itself. But Reverend Mrs. McKinney, Reverend Cheryl and I became ministers. Yeah. So the Reverend Mrs. McKinney comes from Mrs. McKinney. Dr. Moira Fox was our teacher, as you all know, from Redondo Beach. And Dr. Moira would always call Mrs. McKinney, because she was in class with us, Mrs. McKinney. So I don't even think I knew her name was Catherine for like the first, year and a half. And she is just, you guys are in for it, a real treat. I've asked this woman to come speak, I don't know, 5 years ago, I think. She's come to our installation, she was at our ordination. I just love her. I'm not going to get started there. As you all know, Reverend Dan has stepped away for a little while. And I promise you won't have to hear Reverend Cheryl and I bicker on that second Sunday when we speak. It may be entertaining to you, but we won't do that. But we're going to have fabulous guests, as we always do. And I really honor the fact that he stepped away in the way he stepped away, as opposed to burning himself out, because it's really important as ministers to do that and to be the model of what that looks like. We can't give you, we as ministers owe you our best. And so I really honor him for doing that. I'm sorry he's not here to hear me say that, but hopefully he'll watch YouTube after he wakes up. So let me read the short, brief bio, which doesn't even touch on who this fabulous woman is. Catherine McKinney, Reverend Mrs. McKinney, is the Dean of the Los Angeles School for Spiritual Leadership, located at Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living. At Redondo Center, Catherine is also a staff minister. After first learning about Science of Mind at Huntsville, Alabama, Center for Spiritual Living, the McKinney family moved to the South Bay area of Los Angeles and immediately became a part of the Redondo Beach community. It is at Redondo that Catherine began Science of Mind classes and became a licensed as a minister. She's an experienced teacher and speaker and loves to explore the wonders of our metaphysical teaching. She is fantastic, no notes. She is just my heart. So please welcome Reverend Mrs. McKinney, or Reverend Catherine.
Good morning, everyone. I am really happy to be here. And I guess it did take 5 years to get here, but I am very happy to be here. My husband and I came up yesterday because it was over a 4-hour drive, and leaving at 4 in the morning to come and speak wasn't attractive. So we came yesterday. And so we got here early enough that we decided, well, as long as we're here, we'll at least go down to the Strip. And so we did that. Well, we took a lift down and we took a lift back. And I didn't expect that I was going to get a message from our Lyft drivers. But of course, when you're open, that's exactly what happens. And so we had the most wonderful driver the first trip, the trip in onto the Strip. He's from mainland China. He's only been here 2 years, and he had an amazing story to tell. And we were enriched by this story. And on the way back, our driver was from South Africa. And so we talked about even more things in it from a whole different point of view. And I realized, I guess the whole message from that for me was differences. And so I'm talking today about heart to heart. And one of my core feelings is that the only way we ever communicate well with each other is heart to heart. Now, that doesn't mean when I'm talking to you one-on-one as a practitioner, it means an all conversation, and that's a tall order, isn't it? And so, what is it that we do that helps us to get there? And what is it that may get in the way? And that's really what I'm thinking about today. And I think that's why that message came the way it did. I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama. I grew up there, and I lived there essentially until I went to Auburn. I met Bob, and when we married, we moved all over the country for a while, from Colorado to Florida, places in between. And as Stacy said, shortly before we moved to California, we were at least introduced to Science of Mind. We'd never heard of it before. So by the time we landed in Redondo Beach, we were there. And almost immediately, we had 2 children, a teen and a school-age child, and they got into education at Redondo. The gratitude that I felt for that program that allowed my children that to grow into that was just an impressive thing. And that gratitude led me to where I am today. It is amazing to me when we talk about our differences, because when I grew up in the Methodist Church, and when I first took instruction, I was 13, and the minister whom I dearly loved, said to me and the others that were with me that I had to believe in hell in order to take instruction. That was an awakening for me, and I don't know at that point that I'd ever had an awakening. I wasn't a theologically astute 13-year-old, but I knew in that moment that I didn't. See, we have some deep-seated beliefs, ladies and gentlemen. We all do. Not all of them are harmful. Some of them are good for us. And that one, whatever that was, that had me say to that, no. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what it meant, but I said no. Now, I'd like to tell you that I went from there to some spiritually active quest to be able to find out more. I did not. I went over the next few years. I was still a Methodist. I joined the church. I was running things. I was president of this or chair of that. But I will tell you that I very carefully avoided sin, hell, and Jesus. I just didn't get into those discussions because I wasn't going to lie, but I also wasn't going to claim that because I really didn't believe it. And if I did not understand that, I just knew that at that time. That's all I could say. So it was some years later when I went to Auburn and did what I did. We went to California. We landed in this place, and I listened to this teaching because it all began with classes. And I began learning. I could say yes to this. I mean, what a joy. I could not only say yes to it for me, knowing that my children were going to grow up in a way that, as Ernest Holmes' father had to do, pull the buggy over the side of the road and say, now don't you believe what he said at church. We never had to do that. We could say yes to all of it. And there's such a gift in that that's beyond something I could share in this moment. But that's where it began for me. I went on to practitioner training. I went on and became a practitioner. And you decide whether you're going to become a practitioner. And at that point, I realized that it really is about service. Because that's what practitioners do. They serve. And that is, we serve in a very particular way. But it's service, and you are in service. See, going back to this idea of communication, when we come from anything that's broken and within us, we can't meet another person unless we can meet them with our wholeness. And so classes, education, growth actually happens in that way. Raymond Charles Barker said that we do not have to suffer. We absolutely do not. And if we have places in our lives where we feel that we suffer. Even if it doesn't appear that way on the outside, we all know what's going on the inside if we are honest with ourselves. And that's the most important person to be honest with. And you don't have to feel less than or any in that way. But what you can do is just make a decision and decide how you want to be. And what I know for sure is that God, as law, will show up for you in your life to show you the way to get where you need to go. And you may be surprised at how that happens, but I believe that it's so. One day, I don't know, it's been maybe a couple of years ago now, Tammy came up to me on a random day, and I'd known her for a while, and she had this beautiful, happy face. And she said, when I got here, I had an angry face. And she's right. She did have an angry face. I think I met her maybe the first time. She had an angry face, and she said she didn't have enough money, she couldn't get a job, and her kids wouldn't have anything to do with it. So she stands in front of me, and she says, I feel I had an angry face then, but I have found income. I found work, plenty of it. And my daughter just invited me to go on a trip to Italy. My face welled up at the time because I know how she was when she got there. She got there, and yes, she had an angry face, and she was angry. And this couldn't find this, and she was angry because of the divorce. It was a recent divorce, and it was not clean. And her husband even took part of her pension in the settlement. She was angry, and then her kids wouldn't have anything to do with her. And so I think her journey may have begun that day. I just talked to her. That's all I did. We didn't do sessions. It wasn't anything like that. But see, none of us ever know when those opportunities come up. And so we just talked. And I know that she took classes with different people. She had prayer treatment with different people, which led her to the day when she could tell me what she said. And I think that is an amazing story. And I think it's amazing because of what she was able to do with her life. One of the things that psychologists say and have demonstrated, and I believe, is that all of us have this feeling of not enough. I am not enough, to some degree. And some people seem to have it more than others. And Brene Brown talks about this in some of her books, and she says, we affirm that by saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I'm not successful enough, I'm not powerful enough, I'm not enough. And we say it, and we say it over and over again, and we perpetuate that idea. She quotes Lynn Twist in The Soul of Money, Brene Brown does in her books, and where Lynn says, we wake up in the morning saying, I didn't get enough sleep, I don't have enough time. And then we whine throughout the day about that, and we go to sleep thinking, I didn't get everything done. So what is going on here, from my understanding, is that belief of not enough is deep within us. It's not something we're conscious of any more than I'm conscious of why I said no to I don't want to believe in hell. It's a deeply held belief. And I believe that once we make the decision to deal with that, that we're able to do that. But until we do, that not enoughness manifests in different ways. One of the ways that's quite common is when we go out into the world, let's say we're driving to work, and drivers are just going to be doing what drivers do. They text while they drive, they're driving slow in the lane, they pull in front of you and do nasty things, and then there's a woman putting on the makeup in the car next to you, and you want to scoot up to get beyond her. So you get to work, and you're full of all this, and you're angry, you're upset, and so you start telling everybody at the coffee counter, oh, you won't believe what happened to me today, and you go on and on and on. So everybody around you just clucks and says, oh, that was terrible. Oh, I can't believe that happened to you. So then we have what we want. So whatever that anger is, whatever all that emotion is, that kind of energy that's that big, it likely wasn't caused by all that. We're meeting that, but we need that. It's not your fault. And that makes us feel better for a time until we move on to what we're doing. But sometimes the not enoughness manifests itself in deeper ways. I listened to a talk one time. David was the one doing the speaking, and he told the story of himself. And his story was the story of the abandoned boy. He was the abandoned boy. He was 6 years old when his father left him and his mother. And so that is how he felt about his life and where he was. And he said that everywhere I went, in a gathering like this, and camp with kids, wherever he was, he could find that other abandoned boy. And they would sit and tell each other their stories. And they'd both tell each other they were okay. Because we're both abandoned boys. And he liked telling that story. This went on for about 15 years. He was in his early 20s and he began to realize what he was doing. See, somewhere along the line, we have this urge to grow and to be more. And when it rises up, then the need to help us move through whatever it is we need to rises up to meet it. So he had this idea that, okay, I didn't create this story, but I'm promoting it. I'm promoting it everywhere I go. And he, at a young age really, decided to just stop promoting it. But what he also discovered in the process is it was still in his head. And so he came from that space of still being the abandoned boy, even though he didn't talk about it. And so as he moved through that, he moved to a point where he realized, and I know he did his spiritual work in between, he let it go. And so what he would say is, I was no longer allowing that story to define who I was. And that's an amazing thing, creating, promoting, and allowing. And I know there are plenty of people, we all have our stories, and we tell our stories. And we tell stories with people so that we will find people to tell us you're okay. Tammy was that first time she talked to me, she wanted somebody to say, it's not my fault, it's his fault. He caused this. Your husband took your money and that's what's wrong with this. But somewhere in there, both Tammy and David realized what they needed to do. That they needed to find a way to change. And the urge to change is there. The urge to grow is there, just like when we plant the seed and it has that urge to rise. We water it, yes, and that's what we can do. But that urge to grow is part of creation. We do know that God is the only thing that doesn't change. All the rest of us are changing all the time. And what we want to be is changing for the better. So that urge to grow came to Tammy in some way. She showed up at our doorstep. And I don't even know why she came. And David had more opportunities, started at a younger age. But that urge within him came. In a pamphlet that you may have seen called Life is Consciousness by Emmett Fox. I don't know if you've seen that. He tells this amazing story. He says back in the day, movies came to the mining camps. And so they would set up a tent and put up a sheet and they'd play a movie. And these were melodramas, as we sometimes said when I was in theater. So at one point there was a scene where the villain has got the heroine by the neck. And there's this grizzled old cowboy in the front row, and he gets up with his 6-shooter and he fires 6 shots into that villain. Well, we all laugh at that. And I think they laughed at that showing. But what was he supposed to do? He could have turned around and shot the projector, and that would have stopped the story. But isn't that what we do? See, our life is a projection of our consciousness. That is what we are attracting into our lives. And so if the image is something we don't like, we have to find it wrong, find it at fault. Well, what we really have to do is to change the real, make it a different story. It may seem far-fetched that you can change the story of your life that is something that is deeply disturbing. But that isn't so, actually. I know a number of people who have actually changed the story. But one of the most dramatic ones I've only read about, and I read about it as a case study in a psychology book. There was a 5-year-old who was abducted and assaulted, and she was taken away. But she was discovered, she was rescued. And afterwards, the therapists that were gathering around and her parents were incredibly anxious about how to talk to their daughter, how to deal with the trauma that she had experienced. And so they were very gentle with this. And the therapist was talking to her, and so at one point she asked her, "What happened?" And she said, "A monster took me." And she said, "Well, what happened?" She said, "I got away." And she asked her again, she said, "Well, how did that happen?" She said, "I socked him in the face and ran." Well, you can imagine that the mother who was there and the therapist were stunned, because that isn't what happened. But that was her story. And she was the hero in her own life. She took her life, took the reins, took the bull by the horns, and became her own hero and saved her own life. Now, I haven't seen a follow-up to that story because she's much older than 5 now, wherever she is. But that's an amazing story. We can take the stories of our lives, especially the ones that we're remembering that happened, because you know our memories aren't that great anyway. And so we can rearrange the furniture and how that memory plays out so that we're not a victim and that we are the hero of our own life. I believe that once we make a decision, whatever the stories we've been telling ourselves, we find a way to deal with that. And I think that every person that is here will find a different way. I've definitely changed beliefs that I have had. I know that I have. And see, the thing of it is, if one of us can do it, we can all do it. When it comes to that kind of thing, there's no special. It doesn't matter if you're a minister or a practitioner or you walked in the door for the first time. You can change your life for the better, and it begins with a decision to do that and to stick with it. One of the things that Tammy said to me that day that she was telling me about her trip to Italy was that I discovered I really have to stick to it. I can't forget about what this teaching is. She said, I have to keep taking classes. I have to keep doing my reading, and she journals. If I forget, I don't like it. And so what I said to her, I said, you're just strengthening your spiritual muscle. And it occurred to me at the moment that she was telling this, I had hurt my wrist. I'd hurt it pretty badly. And this was some months later, and I was still having some twitching in it. And I had discovered that there were certain exercises, sort of physical therapy exercises, if I did them, it made it feel better. I thought, wow, that's incredible. And so I would get busy, go off on a trip or do something, and start doing that again. I forgot, so I had to go back and exercise it a little bit more. And that happened more than once. What an exquisite metaphor for changing things for the better. It was amazing. That's exactly what she was telling me. That's what I demonstrated physically. The law is the law, and it works that way. So what I'm saying to you is make that decision. If anyone can do it, all of us can do it, and we don't have to stop where we are. I do believe that we are always learning and becoming more of who we are, always. I never want to stop growing. I never want to stop learning. I want to meet people from mainland China who tell me their story. I want to meet people from other places. Differences are what define us. I grew up in a place, and my husband did as well, where everybody was just like we were. Everybody. And we have moved into a place and a world and a culture that we're all different. All of us are different. And embracing the differences and coming from this place of wholeness, this heart to heart, whatever conversations I want to be able to have with you or with someone who presents challenges to me in some way, I have to remember who I am and to whom I truly belong and how I want to be. When I came in the door this morning, I thought I was still reacting to cigarette smoke from the casino because my nose was blowing. I kept swabbing. But actually, I think it's more than that. I cried through your songs. I cried through your meditations, through your opening. Spirit is speaking to me, telling me all that I need to know. And I am really, really grateful. This is a wonderful place to be. I celebrate all of you who are here. So I'm going to close with words from St. Ignatius Loyola. He says, pray to God as if all depends on it, and then go to work as if it all depends on us. And so it is.
This one out into the world every day. There's come a light.
Oh, wait.
She needs an assistant.
No, it's fine. Thank you, though. So today we made a project revolving around the new Aladdin movie, which we haven't seen it yet. I'm letting you know. We've been waiting a couple weeks. I'm free this summer. And so we made these lamps and we decorated them, and then we put 3 wishes on them. And so I made wishes that I don't want to share. And then I made one, and then I made another one, but it's back in there. And then we read a couple of these papers, but this was my favorite. It said, "The power of all creation is right where I am. I am in the field of infinite possibility. If I had 3 wishes for my future, they would be," and then I filled them out. With on this. And because, wait, yeah, Thursday's 4th of July, I'm going to do a painting. We had a lot of extra time.
Oh, I know. You guys, how long were you in there? Thank you. I know, thank you.
There's 2 more paintings in there.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Miss Beth. Thank you, thank you. I know. I would like to ask any visiting ministers or practitioners to please come forward. That would be you. And I would like our Minister Stacy, Reverend Wanda, Reverend Patricia, and our Ministry of Prayer team to please come forward. And just know that they're here for me, they're here for you, always, our Ministry of Prayer team. Thank you. And Reverend Catherine's going to give us a benediction. You want to stand and connect?
Have you got me right? Yes, it does. So as I breathe in this beautiful morning, I allow myself to soak in all of the messages that I've heard today. And I know that as I open myself to the divine inspiration of Spirit that is always within me, always listening, always choosing, and I open myself to that message, I know that there is something most especially for me. And so as I soak that up and take that away with me, I know that it is the beginning of a change in my life that brings me more joy, more delight, more of everything that is my dreams, because I know that the divine always knows the secret desires of my heart. So I allow myself to open to that divine heart, knowing that I am blessed. I am blessed. So in gratitude for this time, for this space, for the wonderful manifestations of God that surround me. And I know that I am holding the hand of God. As I release this word, knowing that Spirit is bringing it into my life as an experience, and I say, and so it is.
Let's sing our peace song. now. Something wonderful is happening to me right now. I know this in my mind.